Good day. Yippee-ki-yay, Mr. Falcon. It is December. It's the time for wonder and merry. It's a time for guns. But then again, it's always time for guns, isn't it? Yes, Christmas has come at last. And today we're taking a look at one of the great Christmas heroes of all time, Bruce Willis, in his oft-forgotten game, Apocalypse.
Here we go, Chief.
I don't want to close my eye. Oh, wait. Apocalypse. Not Armageddon. Apocalypse is a run-and-gun game developed by the legendary Neversoft. They developed a number of top-tier titles on the PlayStation 1, such as Spider-Man and the Tony Hawk Pro Skater series. It was published by Activision on November 7th, 1998 for the PlayStation 1. So what is a run-and-gun game? It's not quite a third-person shooter, and it's not quite a side-scroller, but man, is it a unique and really bloody fun gameplay experience. The game uses a variable camera angle system that changes depending on the part of the level you are fighting through. Sometimes you'll be going along third-person style, and then sometimes it will go overhead, and sometimes the game goes full-on side-scroller. This camera angling system provides for some really cinematic and impressive levels. You control Bruce Willis's firing arc by pressing the right stick in one's desired direction, or by pressing one of the face buttons. For this review, I will be using the Logitech F310 controller, and I had EPSXE set to use it like a non-dual shock controller, so I played the entire game with the face buttons. I did this because I feel this is more comfortable than using the right analog stick. Most of the time it won't really matter one way or the other, because throughout most of the game you'll just be shooting directly in front of you, and really throughout the entire game you're generally meant to just be running forward more than trying to shoot in different angles.
In the game, you'll always be carrying the Bruce Cannon, but there are a number of weapon power-ups to be found.
You have everything from the ever-helpful Flammenwerfer to 2 different directed energy weapons and a whole bunch of rockets. You don't have to use them until you run out of ammo, and you can switch between pickups on the fly. Or you can just use the basic Bruce shot and save the power-ups for harder areas. You also get smart bombs. These weapons aren't any more intelligent than the other ones, and they're not really bombs. Instead, Bruce Willis eats a large amount of chili for lunch, and then weaponizes his flatulence in order to clear the area of enemies for a short time, or do huge amounts of damage to bosses. This weapon is best to be saved for harder areas. As this is a proper game from the 90s, there is a bunch of platforming throughout, and thankfully the controls are mostly up to the task. But there will be some areas where the camera isn't up to the task, and thus you will miss jumps and you will fall to your death. Other than ejaculating projectiles from Bruce Willis's man cannon and platforming, you will have a few switches to hit and a number of bosses to slay. The bosses are generally doable enough, but some will be annoying due to needing to kill them in just the right way. That being said, the gameplay in Apocalypse is perfectly blended in such a way that you will never get bored and the levels will never feel like a slog. And it is the perfect autonomic game for times when you feel like jamming to some Alice in Chains and turning your brain off.
As long as you use the mighty F1 key.
With the almighty save state, the game will last you about 2 to 3 hours and will thankfully have plenty of replay value due to it being a great stress reliever. But played legit, good luck, because this game is harder than Bruce Willis's.
I was going to say acting ability. What'd you think I was going to say? Is everybody's mind in the gutter for the season?
First, you got that ever-annoying lives system, and there are very few to be found throughout the game. You do have intro-level checkpoints and then saves at the end of every level, but actually getting to the end of a level is bloody difficult. You lose health fast, and there will always be many enemies vie to destroy you. But you are Bruce Willis, so I guess it's a fair fight. There are instant death pits in just about every level, so it's quite likely that if played legit and without practice, you will lose all your lives before even approaching the end of the level. With that in mind, if you are a fan of memorizing levels and getting that perfect run to the end, then this game should not disappoint, and will likely provide you with a great deal more than 2 to 3 hours of entertainment.
Alas, in my dotage, I'm actually coming to enjoy such challenges, and I love this game so much that at some point I do intend to play this game legit.
These guys need a little bit more lead in their diet.
Graphically, the game has aged, but what do you expect from the PlayStation 1? Not every system can be as epic as the Nintendo 64. What? Come at me, bro. I will never give up the war. Nintendo 64 wins all years. Hey, don't tell me to shut up. Get in or... As I was saying, or get out! The graphics for the game have aged and they don't look that amazing, even scaled up to 2K and improved with EPSXE. But that being said, the game still doesn't look like a mass of pixels vomited onto the screen, and the player character is still recognizable as old Bruce Willis, and the level design is still impressive, as are many of the player models. For 1998, on the PlayStation 1, this game looks damn good, and even modern players can find themselves being impressed at a few intervals. And as for me, I am not blinded by nostalgia. I had the real late 90s console growing up and didn't learn about this game until it was recommended to me by Rainick. And I am most thankful that he did, because even in 2020, this game is damn good and can provide a new player with some much needed variety despite the rather old graphics.
Strap one on, it's time to jam.
As this is a late 90s game, the music is actually pretty interesting, if not altogether that amazing. One of the most epically cheesy late 90s elements of the game is, oh my god, music videos in a video game! I have lived to see wonders. As you play throughout the game, you'll come across music videos on outdoor big screen TVs, and this was one of the great selling points of this game back in the late 90s. And this game boasts such great artists as System of a Down and the world famous Poe. Dameron?
Who in the name of Sigmar is Poe?
Poe, born Andicur Daniel Whiskey, good thing she changed it, is an American singer, songwriter, and record producer who had her first modern rock hit in 1995.
Ladies and gentlemen, no one cares!
She appears in the game as a boss character, and her music is alright, I guess. It's kind of easy to see why she faded into obscurity, as her music doesn't really stand out all that much from the emo rock of the 1990s. As for System of a Down, they sing the song War, and I didn't know that they coined the term praise God and pass the ammunition. The generic music for the game is good enough, but none is altogether that memorable.
And now we're done.
Having a major Hollywood actor like Bruce Willis take center stage in a video game, even today, would be seen as a huge bloody deal. Much more in 1998. One must remember that in the 90s, Brucey was a major league action star. You had Die Hard with a Vengeance and Fifth Element being some of the best movies of the decade. So playing as Bruce Willis in a video game would have been nothing short of jaw-dropping.
Hell, in the space year 2020, it kind of still is.
Now, he is not quoting Shakespeare or saying anything profound, but he is the Bruce we know and love. He is basically a Duke Nukem-ish sort of one-liner spouting badass, and depending on how much you like Bruce himself and the various films that he stars in, you will find it either enjoyable or annoying. My favorite line is when he picks up a new weapon and belts out,
Open up a can of whoop ass.
Damn straight, Bruce! Ho, ho, ho! Yeah!
As for the rest of the game's sound design, it is merely serviceable. The weapons sound powerful and the bosses sound suitably creepy, but none of the other voice actors really put in that amazing of a performance. But for 1998, the voice acting is a bit above average.
I'm not getting paid enough to do this crap.
The story is there, but to understand why it is such an afterthought, we must go back to the development. Initially, the player was supposed to control a random merc and was to be followed by an AI-controlled partner named...
The most 90s name since Sergei Urge, Trey Kincaid!
The idea was also quite 90s as well. The game was supposed to be some sort of buddy comedy. Apparently Bruce Willis was signed on to do the AI partner, but this was changed at some point in development and Trey Kincaid became the only character, and this meant that Bruce's dialogue was changed to be rather cheaper, minimal, and thus, throughout the game, you get him quipping and muttering a few hard-to-pick-up lines in the cutscenes, and that's it. So the story is thus. The foul forces of the Reverend have taken over the world of 1999, and by using his 3 horsemen and 1 woman of the apocalypse, humanity is kept under control, even though apparently nightclubs exist somehow in a theocracy. Also, one of the horsemen is named Beast.
Somewhere in the back of the Bible.
And the Beast is supposed to burn the cities to ash, even though he never actually does this. You are Bruce Willis, aka Trey Kincaid, and apparently you did something to get thrown into Arkham Asylum, and as you would expect, you are easily able to escape by using the nanoforge from Red Faction to build the Willis gun, and thus the game begins. The first level is the prison, and it is oh so 90s. The surge is real! The shooting and platforming are well balanced, and both complement each other to ensure that the game never gets dull. This level features full motion video. Truly, it is the future. Ray tracing. Let's see some more low quality interlaced video panels. The boss for this level is a big fuck off tank that can tank a bunch of damage. Keep your distance as it can quick kill you with its flamethrowers if you get too close. Between each level you will get a Bible quote because this game is 90s and thus just a little emo. Next, we got the sewer level. The difficulty ramps up a bit, and you have to dodge some bombs while riding the shit stream. And then you get to do some serious platforming where you can die quite quickly and lose all your lives. And these falling rocks hurt. The boss for this level is a giant crocagator. Shoot it until it dies.
The next level is certainly impressive because Bruce Willis goes on a Retro City rampage.
The rampage is through a massive city level that is quite detailed and has some really bloody fun fights. The platforming is a bit limited here though. The city itself doesn't have a boss, but when you find Kincaid's lab, it turns out that his dude bro lab assistant has been turned into death by Satan, I guess. This is where the rather slapdash nature of the story gets kind of hard to follow. It seems that the Reverend, spoiler alert, Satan, knew Kincaid or they worked together, and now Satan hates Kincaid, so he's turned all of Kincaid's friends and family into the Four Horsemen. I guess. The boss fight is suitably fun, and then we get to the rooftops, my personal favorite level in the game. The difficulty is just on the right side of satisfying, and there is a bunch of really fun platforming challenges alongside some excellent shootouts. Despite the epicness of this level, the boss is not all that impressive. It's a helicopter. Previous level, you fight the personification of death. This one, you're fighting a mass-produced vehicle manufactured in Kentucky. But then the game picks up the 90s vibe again by transitioning to
the graveyard level. This reminds me an awful lot of Gex Gecko. Here's hoping their paths cross and old Trey Kincaid shows Gex the error of his ways.
I love the 90s. So the plot here has Kincaid going to meet up with his ex-wife, and apparently she is going to help him, and apparently she has a nightclub in the middle of a level from Gex. Guess she wanted cheaper car insurance. There are a few challenging bits. Here is one where the zombies get mortars and they can blow you to pieces, and another is where you have to guard this switch from zombies. Be wary though, you can accidentally kick it and have to wait for the bloody door to open all over again. The boss of this level is the most dastardly villain of all.
The nefarious Poe! God the Raven. Caca, nevermore.
Yes, you have to face down Poe, otherwise known as Trey Kincaid's ex-wife, who I guess is pestilent. She does have an acid attack, but I don't really know where the flame-shooting disco ball fits in with the whole biblical allegory. So you slay her and extra kill her, and Willis quips that she is still pissed. I guess Willis's chicks dig the sunglasses and 3DOs. And you better keep in mind the sultry tones of Gex Gecko for the next level. You enter Hell. The Military Factory is a simple name for the hardest level in the game. The enemies take numerous hits to lay low, and the platforming is brutal. Expect to lose all your lives or wear out your F1 key trying to survive.
And then you do battle with a giant samurai warrior with a rocket launcher on his back.
The 90s. I miss it so. This is an easy fight if you know what to do. Shoot these barrels to damage him, but be careful, if you don't time it right, he will crush you under his mighty boot. Now it's time to take the fight straight to the top and invade the White House itself. This level is not nearly as difficult as the War Factory, but it is really fun to battle it out on the front facade of the White House. When you reach this area, you have to blow up this wall. It took me forever to figure that out since the game does not give you a hint as to what wall to blow up, or they that you need to blow up a wall at all. Once you reach the interior, you face some snack bar Secret Servicemen, and then find Bill Clinton's sex dungeon. Once you make it past all of Clinton's stacks of porn mags, you come face to face with the Beelzebub himself. This is a multi-phase boss fight that will have you smashing the F1 key enough to type out the Gettysburg Address. His first form is tough enough, but then you get thrown into the second level of the Bill Clinton sex dungeon, and then the boss fight becomes even harder. Satan gets aroused to his full length and might, and has several health bars that you have to blow through. And the entire arena is an instant death pit, and the platforms will fall into the Bill Clinton abyss. After you overcome the power of the sex dungeon, you destroy President Cypher, only to be possessed by him.
90s Bruce Willis has turned into late 80s Bruce Willis. We're gonna have Hudson Hawk too!
And thus, the game draws to its logical conclusion. What a game, ladies and gentlemen. This is the very definition of hidden gem. The gameplay is top tier, the difficulty is on the right side of hard, and the story is just the right kind of 90s cheese that just about anyone with a sense of humor should enjoy. Upon further reflection, the game feels a great deal like a Duke Nukem game, just with Bruce Willis instead of Duke. You have the quips, you have the vaguely defined future, just replace aliens with Satan. So this game could very well be a Duke clone, which is all sorts of ironic since Bruce played what was essentially Duke Nukem in Fifth Element. This is a game in dire need of remastering, or at the very least a retro revival of some description. The gameplay, while good, does need some improvement. There needs to be a better way to target jumps, since sometimes you will be taking leaps of faith in harder levels. The gun controls, while interesting, need to be supplemented by a lock-on mechanic, as sometimes it would be very difficult to hit enemies at range. The game never gets boring, but it would be well served by a vehicle segment to mix things up. While I doubt that Bruce Willis could ever be enticed back, it would be epic to have another old action figure take center stage, dropping one-liners while the player blows shit up 90s style.
It goes without saying that I cannot recommend this game enough. It's pure 90s goodness, and certainly earns the moniker Alpha Prime. And so, I am GeneralLotz, wishing you good 1 for PS1 and good Ray. Oh, maybe not so good Ray Jump. How about good Doom, the Ancient Gods, whatever makes you happy.